Recorder. Okay, I think we can start because we don't want the meeting to go long. And although we don't have presenters tonight, we do have a lot of things to talk about. This meeting is going to be a little different from most of them. And next month, we'll kind of be back to our typical meeting that half of it will be have presenters from different movements from around the country. But this one is more like a discussion of resolution efforts and next steps and what we can do to move things forward. And we're going to spend the time on that. And I'm Rana. I'll do a very brief slideshow on the history and activities of Medicare for All Connecticut. And then we'll actually do oral introductions. By then, everyone should be here. We have in the past put it in the chat, but for this time, we kind of want to get an idea of who's here from which town so that we can kind of think about which towns might be right for advocacy work in a major way to support any upcoming legislation. So I'm going to share the screen. And many thanks to Amanda for putting this slideshow together. Medicare for All Connecticut. What is our group? It's a grassroots community of organizers and activists who believe healthcare is a human right and strive to make Medicare for all a reality in Connecticut and beyond. We partner with lots of groups, both nonprofits and political groups in Connecticut, and also groups with similar missions nationwide. Some of the highlights going back to 2018, statewide forums. The first one was in July of 2018 at Goodwin College. That September, activists handed over almost 17,000 petition signatures to Senator Chris Murphy, asking him to co-sponsor the Senate bill, which parenthetically he has not done to date. In February 2019, members of Medicare for All were present at the US Capitol in support of HR 1384, the 2019 Medicare for All Act. And our representative, Johanna Hayes, was the first Connecticut representative and is still the first only rep to co-sponsor federal legislation. Let's see. The second forum was held in August of 2019 in Hamden with a lot of co-sponsor groups, about 150 people there. In February 2020, the New London City Council became the first one to pass a Medicare for All resolution. And being from New London, I was very happy to see that happen. And also, Senator Richard Blumenthal hosted a town hall on Medicare for All and COVID-19 later that year. In January 2021, the Wyndham Town Council approved a resolution in support of Medicare for All. Last April and May, the Husky for All single payer study bill passed the Connecticut Human Services Committee and had a public hearing. And well, the part of the history continues on that, let's say. And just recently, last week, New Haven's Board of Alders voted in favor of the resolution endorsing Medicare for All. So that's the summary. And I think I'll open it up that people can do introductions. And I think I'll start and call on Amanda and we'll kind of popcorn through the board and then we'll see who else is here at the meeting. So Amanda, it's you. You're up.
Thanks, Rona. I appreciate it. My name is Amanda. I'm based in Hamden, Connecticut, and I'm co-chair of the Communications Committee. Pronouns she, her. And yeah, I'm gonna popcorn it off to Sivan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sivan, she, her, hers in New Haven. I'm really excited by this presentation and all of the work we did today. I came on to Medicare for All like in January of this year, and so far I'm just really impressed with all the work we've all done. So yeah, I will pick on Justin Paglino.
Hi, Justin Paglino. I live in Guilford, he, him, his. I ran for Congress as a Green Party candidate. I'm running against Rosa DeLauro because she doesn't support Medicare for all. And I'm running in the Green Party because I believe we need more than two parties. We need a multi-party democracy. And I want to also say thanks to Medicare for All and everybody for all the work they did getting the New Haven resolution passed, the most recent of what I hope will be many resolutions. And I'll pass it on to Holly. Holly, you have to unmute. Oh, maybe she can't unmute. Should we pass it on to someone else? Patricia?
I can unmute, unless there's another Patricia here. I don't know.
Oh, you were the one I was looking at.
Oh, okay. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see them. So my name is obviously Patricia Sivena Saavedra. Don't really care about pronouns. I used to like to use the pronouns per, P-E-R, but that never caught on. I am a member of the Socialist Alternative, but I'm also registered as a Green Party candidate, as a Green Party person, because it's recognized in here in Connecticut, and I'm living in Hamden right now. And expanded Medicare for All is something that's very important amongst other things, and that's where I am. And I have to choose somebody. Okay. Donna Nicolino.
Thank you. So I'm Donna, pronouns she or they. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, live in Willimantic, and I helped get the Willimantic-Windham resolution passed. Yes, I'm on the advisory board now, and also just joined the electoral committee, which I'm excited about, because the whole reason why I joined this group is I want to really support candidates who support Medicare for All and help them get elected and help the ones who are elected stay in office. And I will pass it to Kim.
Okay, hi. I hope you mean this Kim Hart. Hi, everyone. My name is Kim Hart. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm from New Haven. And I am a dues-paying DSA member. And I am here because I am so excited that the New Haven resolution on Medicare for All passed the Board of Orders, and I'm excited about that. So yeah, and I am going to pass it to, oh my goodness, I can't see because the closed captioning. I'm gonna pass it to John Connell. How about that? Yeah, all right, thanks.
Hi, yeah, I'm John Connell. I moved here 3 years ago after living in Dallas, Texas for 20 years. And I'm interested in Medicare for All. I don't know, I have no official capacity. I'm not a part of any other group. I'm not an elected town official, and I'm not running for office. but I'm very impressed with what you folks are doing, the passion you have. I don't know where and when or how I could be of help, but I'm very interested, and I like what I hear and I see, and I'm just here to learn. So, oh, and I have to pass it on to somebody. I guess I should have been paying attention who hasn't spoken yet. I see there's somebody by the name of Justin. Has Justin already spoken and I haven't paid attention? But can Justin take it away?
I spoke.
Uh-oh. Sorry, Justin. Who hasn't? There's Vivian. There's Rana Stuller. I don't know.
I spoke, but I'm going to try Holly again because she tried before and it didn't work.
Okay, I'm off of mute now, and I'm still trying to get another computer to hopefully run better. But I am Holly Hackett. I am she, her, hers pronouns. I am trying to just make sure that everyone has coverage for their healthcare because it is a human right. I am interested in all aspects, but my passion is really just educating people and making sure we get the right people in office to do what they're supposed to do, and that is speak for us. And I will call on Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Gabriel, he, him pronouns. I'm based out of North Haven, Connecticut, and I am on the board of directors with Medicare for All Connecticut. I've been involved with this organization since probably around 2018. I remember the second forum that Medicare for All put on was one of the biggest, the big events that I first big events that I worked on, and it's a great group, a lot of great work going on, and obviously I think healthcare is a human right. It's something that we all need. So I will pass it on to let's see, I think Bill is the one that's next to me. Bill Morco.
Yep. Hi, Bill Marico. I'm a retired state employee, worked in the controller's office administering health insurance for state employees and retirees for 17 years. Have been working on Medicare for All since 1974, the original bill that was introduced in different capacities, obviously. I want Medicare for All not just because it gives access to health care, but the current bill really reforms the whole financial underpinnings of the healthcare industry, and that's really what's needed. We can provide access to healthcare in many different ways, but the way it's been done, all the different improvements, Obamacare, et cetera, great things, give little more coverage to few more people, but it doesn't change the underlying aspects of the for-profit healthcare system in the country that the insurance industry basically controls. And Medicare for All, the Jayapal bill really gives a start towards changing that whole system. So I represent the New Haven People Center on the Medicare for All New Haven Coalition. Pass it on to David Yaccarino, one of our great state reps.
No, but thank you, Bill. My name is David Yaccarino. He, him, his. I live in East Haven. My father, Dave Yaccarino Sr., is a state rep from North Haven. But I did run for state rep last year. Was hoping to join Representative Michelle and Hughes in supporting single payer healthcare, but that didn't work out. But yeah, I've been, I think this is one of my big issues. One of the reasons I decided to get more involved a few years ago. Just echoing what everybody else said. I mean, this is a system. We have a lot of problems with systems that benefit the few and not the many in this country. But this is one of the big ones. It's a moral issue. I mean, the concept of medical debt is completely amoral, and it should not exist in the richest country in the history of the world. But yeah, I'm also on the board of directors, and happy to help out in any way that I can. And I will pass it to, I mentioned him, so Representative David Michelle. who may be away from the computer. Oh no, there he is.
I'm here. I've got the blue background. I'm doubling meetings, but thank you, David. David Michel, he, him, from Stanford, state rep. Very annoying Frenchman in the state capital, and proudly so. And I will pass it on to, I was gonna pass it on to Anne, but I know Megan is here and she's from Stanford. And I know they worked on a resolution in the city of Stanford. Sorry, Anne. Megan?
Hi, my name is Megan. I am on the Board of Representatives for the city of Stanford. I would like to pass a resolution for Medicare for all. We were going to have a committee meeting about it, and then we didn't have a quorum last summer. And I'm hoping to reintroduce it in the fall. Does anyone have the text to the New Haven resolution? I would really like to get that at some point. If I could look at that resolution as well. And I am going to pass it on to, I don't know anyone but David in this meeting, but I will pass it on to Josue Cintron.
Hi, I'm Josh, or Josue, he, him. I'm from East Hartford. I'm 24. I'm just getting started in like political activism and stuff like that. I've always like studied politics and done my own kind of thing, but I decided to join the DSA recently and join or just get in contact with my like local Democratic council and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to like learn and just see what's going on and actually get my, boots on the ground and just get involved. I'll pass it to Peter.
I'm Pete Cunningham, he, him. I'm in Hamden. I'm on the board of Medicare for All Connecticut, communications committee co-chair, also in Central Connecticut DSA, where I'm also on the communications committee. And yeah, I'm real excited to be here and to keep this work going after last week's great victory. So I think, who else hasn't spoken? I think Alana still needs to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alana. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm in New Haven. I had a wonderful time canvassing and phone banking this summer, and I'm so thrilled that the resolution passed, and I'm just excited to continue the work. And I will pass it to Carolyn.
I'm sorry, who did you introduce?
Carolyn Wall. Or I can alternatively pass it to Simone R.
Hi all, my name's Simone. I use she, her pronouns. I'm in Mansfield, and I believe healthcare is a human right. I've learned a lot from these monthly meetings over the past year or so since they've been virtual, and I'm always really grateful for all the work you're doing, and really grateful to have this accessible to keep learning. Thank you, everybody. And I'll pass it on to Ben.
Hello. My name is Ben. I'm a new member of the DSA and live in Manchester. Pronouns they, he, and I'm interested in possibly staying more connected, and don't really like the fact that, the insurance company has had a lot of say, seemingly a lot of say in a lot of the bills that have come before us, Obamacare and such. And so, I don't know, being from Connecticut with the insurance capital of the world, I think we have a big role in this whole thing. If we could do it, anyone can. Thank you.
I think we should call on Rep. Ann Hughes at this point, please, and thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, I'm listening to another Zoom, but I'm Rep. Ann Hughes, 135th co-chair of the Progressive Caucus at the House Dems in Connecticut. And we pushed hard for a Medicare for all, Husky for all legislation and a study which passed out of a study of the economic, the economic
impact.
Yeah.
What she said.
Yeah, a analysis of what it would look like for Connecticut. And I really believe stronger than ever, if people knew what they could save and how this could boost businesses that weren't burdened with, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 cost per employee.
Mm-hmm.
What an economic boom! What a destination for a global workforce we would attract. So many reasons. Anyways, I'm still not giving up on the possibility of petitioning a study. And there was something. We just need the data. We need the public to recognize what it is that this could offer Connecticut residents and how we could be a model for the whole country. So I believe in that. And I believe that the public is the tipping point. Look at how fast Andrew Cuomo is falling. It just takes like a tipping point for things to shift very, very quickly. And we're building the tipping point here in Connecticut. Thanks.
I think Andrew has not gone yet, but everyone else has. So do you want to take it away, Andrew? Well, maybe not. I think for the next part of the agenda, because we have our two state legislators here, Representative David Michel and Representative Ann Hughes. I was told that we also missed Amelia. Before we introduce our reps for the legislative update, Amelia, would you like to go? Sorry, I didn't have your name written down.
No worries. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. All right. Hi, I'm Amelia Lowry, she, her, hers. I live in New Haven. I'm part of the Board of Directors for Medicare for All Connecticut. Beyond this being a basic human right, I think this is one step in the direction of tackling many systems of oppression, and that is why I'm here. Thank you.
So tonight we have two state reps, Representative Ann Hughes from Easton and Representative David Michel from Stamford. And I know the reps are really busy during session, but I can't really emphasize how many hours they must have spent on this particular topic over this past session. So we've invited them to kind of give an update of where we stand and what lies in, well, the near future and maybe the slightly not so near future. So thank you, Representatives Michel and Hughes, and thanks for the update in advance.
Hi, Rana. So now we're out of session. I mean, in the state of Connecticut, the sessions are January to June, and the short sessions every 2 years. They alternate every year. This short session, which is coming up, is February to May, which is very short. And as we know, time is a bill killer. And so, but in short session, the bills that are really considered are going to be the committee bills. So there's not as much of a game with legislative bills, they're going to be committee bills. So it's whatever the chairs are in agreement with that really go through this year. I mean, that doesn't mean I'm not going to introduce bills myself. I will, but there probably won't be any movement there. And we did end up, in case no one, some people don't know, in this last session, with thanks to the amazing work of the advocates, we managed to have a bill survive, get tramped on, get cut, changed, hacked, changed again, and changed again. Well, that was before. That was after it had died and was resuscitated. I know it's kind of medical terms, but it was a torturous route. The first thing that happened is the bill died in insurance. So I guess that makes sense. That's why it ended up in insurance. But the bill then was reintroduced as a committee bill by the good Senate Chair Moore from Human Services. And there we ran into some quote unquote administrative walls, where the drafting lawyers were not really helpful with putting the language or translate our version of the language into a more proper version of language or legislative language for the state of Connecticut. And just close to the deadline, say, oh, we didn't draft anything, but if you want, we can draft a study. And so, so that was kind of the goal. If we felt the bill was about to die, then we should really transform into a study. So we prepare for the future and have some data that we can prove that we'd have savings. That would be a non-biased study, obviously, but we kind of all know the result. And that study language went through a public hearing and then was voted out of committee. And instead of just hanging out until it was called on the House floor, or on the Senate floor first, sorry, because it was a Senate bill, well, it got sent to appropriations. And because it was attached to a fiscal note. And the fiscal note we felt was inflated because we did not really see the need for a whole council structure where we could simply have a study made by somebody who's made studies for other states, like Dr. Friedman. So that council language that was kind of imposed by the governor's team, where we managed to have our own corrections in there, which was good, still came with that fiscal note. And so appropriations killed it. So it was never called, didn't have a chance to be called on the floor, on the House, on the Senate floor, then the House floor. So we're going to go back at it, hopefully with, again, a committee bill in the short session. It's difficult because we're not sure that necessarily the House chair will support it, because they were very at it with the public option this year. And it seems some of the chairs were really not really that interested with single payer, even a single payer study. So we're gonna have to do some lobby, like quote unquote lobbying. We're all gonna have to like communicate with those chairs and like convince them that we need the whole thing. And even if it's one bill for a single payer, the first part of the bill could be the study. So this way, if they really want to hack at the bill, we already have language that's solidly encrusted and went through public hearing, and so that it's less for the governor's team to play with, hopefully. Again, we're hoping that we'll have more chances in communication next year. This year, because we were distant and virtual, the communications were very different. And the governor's team and agencies and state agencies had a lot of, they had a stronghold on legislators' bills. So it felt like we had less say on our own language than them. And they're not, part of the legislative structure. So a lot of issues to deal with and think about and strategize around. It's good. I mean, we're learning, and we are in the insurance capital of the world. So in any case, I think that it was a great reintroduction. It showed that there was support. It also showed those who those who are behind the public option, that the support for the public option was also there for the single payer, because we did meet with many other advocacy groups and political orgs. And so I think they realized that there is support intrinsically, and there's no reasons not to go forward. I mean, to me, again, I think it comes down to the lack of proper representation. If 70% of the people want a single payer, for example, in our state, it doesn't seem like 70% of the legislature does. So I encourage a whole lot of primaries in the coming months. I think that's good enough. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer or explain anything.
Seems like the chairs are maybe the ones that need to be primaried. Would you agree? The ones that won't bring the bills up for a vote?
Yeah. It sounds like a proper assessment. I would definitely say that.
Who are the chairs?
Well, so it depends on which committees, right?
Oh.
We saw that the last chance of something to go through was blocked by appropriations, right? And the same chair of appropriations is also, I believe, involved in leadership, also in human services on the House level. And that's Kathy Abercrombie. I'm sure she's totally able to go through a discussion and listen and maybe consider. The kind of the response to our approach was, well, nobody talked to me. And, you know, the Senate chair of Human Services was saying, we want this to start as a House bill. And so we asked Kathy Abercrombie, and she was like, no. I have my House bills, and that's Senator Moore's. That's a Senate bill. Nobody talked to me about it. So it was kind of like, you know, if you didn't talk to me about it, then I won't give you the chance to, you know, really like go for it. So maybe now we have a chance to talk about it and plenty of time to talk about it. But yeah, you're correct, Justin. I mean, you know, there's a lot of issues with representation when it comes to social justice throughout the state, you know. And the word equity is being used throughout the Capitol in many ways. But you're like wondering, is that really what they mean?
Rep. Michelle, that is not the facts, because Kathy Abercrombie was spoken to by one of our people when we were doing phone banking, and she gave a very strange answer. I can't recall it, and I can't find the phone banking information right now. But when she was spoken to, she was not really in favor, if I recall. But she knew, we talked to her. She was spoken to by one of her constituents. So that she was not spoken to is not the truth.
Oh, no, she was spoken to, but
okay.
Not by the Senate chair or her colleague, who is chair of like five or six committees. So Senator Moore is spread out, very thin.
Okay.
And then you'd expect the LCO to mention it to the other chair, because the Legislative Commissioner's Office lawyers are the drafting lawyers. And so if one of the chairs is about to draft something and is not getting necessarily answers, then maybe they can talk to the other chair. I mean, and usually they do, you know. So,
okay, I just wasn't certain that she was telling people no one spoke to her or approached her. I'm like, because we did,
right.
We covered everyone.
You know, Holly, and you're right. She never really expressed support for it. And we can have Anne talk to her a couple of times. Anne is in Human Services. And Anne, can you hear us? I think she might be on the other meeting. That it's funny when she talks in the other meeting, then I'm talking on this one. The other one is about climate. So, but yeah, it was really strange mechanics and a lot of control over what our duties are, which is just not right. That's actually one of the reasons why I voted against the extension of the governor's powers, and not along with my caucus, because I was like, I was elected to do this work. And every time somebody else is doing my work, that's a lack of representation from my side, right? Even if it's most of the time out of my hands, at least I have to fight for it. So, you know. Sorry, I don't want to put everybody out. We fight and we continue to, we passed some really good bills this year. We did, right? We had some right to counsel. There were some really watered down bills, but what passed will help people. We could have helped a lot more people, like for example, with the undocumented immigrants, expansion of Husky. I thought that was ridiculous, the way it was narrowed down internally by Democrats, like to a lesser and lesser bill. We kept getting vote counted. And they said, oh, what do you think about 14 and under? And we were like, no, 18 and under. And they're like, what do you think about 12 and under? And then they were like, what do you think about 8 and under? And I was like, what? What? Why are we downplaying like we're on our own between Democrats downgrading this bill? That's nuts. And for money that we have, which is sickening. Anyway, sorry, ranting here. All right, I'll come down.
I guess my question is there anything people in this group can do over the next month or 2 or 3 to support future legislative efforts on your end?
Yeah, I think it's important to look at where were the blocks and have the constituents and leaders or community leaders and organizations reaching out to those that might have been the biggest impediments. But you know what? It always, you can start at the top. I mean, clearly, if just at the drafting level, if we're not getting what we want drafted, then you have to put in question the leadership, because who is the ultimate bosses of those lawyers? So, you know, it would be good to maybe do some campaign on leadership on both the speaker and majority leader. Yeah, I'm reading that Dems are not socialists. No. Sometimes they use the word socialist with me thinking it's an insult. I said, yes. No, there's definitely a lot of things we can do. I think like sending, exchanging with the Speaker of the House, the Majority Leader, the chairs of Human Services, Appropriations, and Anne, are you here? Yay, we got her.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, no, we're talking about the health climate. No, we're saying targeting now at this point to target in communications, the Speaker, the Majority Leader, the chairs of Appropriations, Human Services, what else? You know, for the next few months until we start introducing those bills again a couple of months before the deadline.
Right. Again, I think if we can, like I said, if we can garner more public support for at least looking at the numbers and an economic viability study, and bring that to the table. But yeah.
How about Anne?
Yeah.
If advocates can fundraise enough money to get that study going, then all we have to do is focus on this bill and just keep the same bill over and over.
I know, same
without
bill.
Having to lose another year or another 2 years. Although it's short session, so I mean, I did let them know this is going to be a committee bill.
The chairs set the agenda for what's going through their committees.
What do you mean? They already set it? It's already set now, the agenda?
No, I'm just saying that we can't introduce bills like the way we just did.
So Mike Winkler proved me wrong, because I said the same thing in 2020, and he started introducing bills. And I was like, darn, I should have introduced bills, because
I mean, you can, but it doesn't mean that they get, you know.
Well, they get talked about in screening.
Right.
It's still something.
Yes.
I don't know. But we're going to have to get, Anne, who is the chair, the House chair of Human Services? I'm confused.
Kathy Abercrombie.
And Appropriations?
Tony Walker.
Okay. So those are 2 main names already right there. Bill?
Yeah, I mean, Tony Walker is my state rep. She lives a block away from me. I would be willing to talk to her. Also, I think we ought to set up a meeting with Marty Looney, who I've known for, before he was in the legislature. And I'd love to do that. I particularly also would like to meet with Kevin Lembo and have Ann and David come with me.
Yeah, we've had a meeting with Kevin. It was a good meeting, actually. Right,
Yep.
Siobhan?
Yeah. What I remember from all of our meetings.
He supports Medicare for all. He feels that public option was the first step to single payer, but that the ultimate goal was to get to single payer. So that's his stance.
Right. I mean, just in terms of statistics, the state has a liability of $17.3 billion for retiree health care. That goes away with Medicare for all. On a national basis, at least. So, I mean, a lot of the legislature, LCO is nice, but the way you really get to them is by having language in a bill that they have to deal with right from the beginning. I've helped draft legislation like that many years ago. And basically, if it comes through the controller's office to the leadership, it doesn't get screwed up by the lawyers.
It was a little bit more complex bill this year. Typically, we get the language that you ask for. Well, it depends, but you'll get mostly what you want through, and they don't change the name or anything, and they'll put much less words than you have, because at first it starts as a concept, right? So, but the concept sometimes gets introduced with the full language, and we gave explicit language. Shivan, Rona, I mean, there was 33 pages, right, Holly? 33 pages first. And then we sort of found a way to, because there was a lot of repetition, so we kind of concised it, made it smaller to 22 or 24 pages. And then we gave that to the LCO under the guidance of the Senate chair. And the LCO did not draft anything for 2 weeks. And then it was the deadline. Yeah. So this comes from above. This was controlled. And that was, I mean, that's crazy, because that's a committee bill. The Senate chair has asked for it, and it's not being drafted. It was an odd year. Hopefully we when we are face to face, then maybe things are a little different, and they won't try to jinx us as much.
So we did have some very good news on the New Haven front recently in terms of local action in the biggest city yet to pass a resolution. And I wonder if we can follow up now with talking a little bit about the New Haven resolution, the process it went through, and where to go from here. So I don't know, Sivan and Holly, would you like to take that on?
Sure. Holly, do you want to go first, or?
I think you should start with how wonderful you interacted with all the alders, and how we just did, you and the triumvirate there went out every weekend and just worked your hardest and talked to a specific alder. I want you to tell the story, Sivan, and then I'll go on to all the other junk.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, we just won big time, sort of the first step or second step in the passing the New Haven resolution for Medicare for All, which supports Medicare for All on the local, state, and national level. Basically, we got together back in February, March, April, it's all a blur right now, essentially a coalition, we'll call it, of different groups, including DSA, Medicare for All, Connecticut, Working Families Party, Connecticut, several other, Our Revolution, Yale, YDSA, just interested individuals and groups to come together that were based in New Haven. And what we did was one of the people on DSA Central Connecticut, James Bundary Alexander, had a personal relationship with his alder, Adam Marchand. And it's my understanding that he kind of raised the resolution language with him. And through a series of events on that side, sort of on the back end side, the resolution was raised through those channels. But then on the front side, what we did was, again, building that coalition, speaking to all of these local groups, also such as Bill's People Center of New Haven, and just did community outreach extensively. Nobody thought we could do as much as we could, but we ended up doing about 3 days a week for over 3 months, I want to say. And that was just, you know, whoever could come, whatever you could do in terms of knocking on doors. Because it was over the summer, we also set up at the New Haven farmers markets and became very friendly with the City Seed group as well. And it was just talking to New Haven residents about what Medicare for All is. A lot of people were aware, some weren't aware, but every single person, no matter what, had a healthcare story, be it if their expenses were too high, or they were denied coverage, or they knew somebody who was denied coverage. Everybody had something. So I've been saying that this has been one of the easiest campaigns I've worked on in terms of talking to people about it, but it's been one of the hardest campaigns to hear people's horrible stories. And we would just ask people. We set up on Action Network, we set up a letter writing campaign in which it was very easy. People just had to, you know, put in their name, their address, and click send, and letters were sent to the Board of Alders. They were able to customize a letter or just send it as is. And as of the Monday vote, we had sent 511 letters, which for local resolution apparently is very good. So I think that no matter the structure of a city, there's so many different ways to approach how healthcare is inaccessible for so many people at so many different levels. And we have come up with different spins depending on, or not, you know, little s quote unquote spins in terms of how to approach people about it. If you're in a union, if you're a small business owner, if you, you know, are a Republican or fiscally minded, Medicare for All is just the answer to so many of society's ills. And so we can certainly help people, having done, you know, New Haven, that we can help other towns and cities across Connecticut really bring this on. And so with that said, our next steps for New Haven now is to work with the Board of Alders, because they have now voted to pass this, to work with them to now recruit the mayor, Mayor Justin Elliker. He's basically running unopposed now to sign on to this. He did take pictures with our Instagram frame, so we've got his number. And then with the Board of Alders, with the mayor, and we'll see what other tactics we want to use, is to really try to get Rosa DeLauro on board with this and ask her to meet with us. And if she doesn't meet with us, we publicize that. Another thing that we would say on the doors is Rosa DeLauro does not support Medicare for All. And every single one of her supporters was shocked
and upset by this. So this is something that they want, that her constituents want. New Haven consistently gives her her largest electoral wins, and we have made her the chair of the appropriations committee because of that, and so she needs to start listening to us. So that's with New Haven. And so now we're also going to go further into phase 1 of Hamden, which is the next town over. And we'll have an organizing committee meeting on that tomorrow night. And Pete can speak more to that, but we'll be going into, strategically figuring out which districts we need to knock doors on, which of the town councilors we really need to persuade. Because if we know, that was what happened with New Haven, was after the resolution passed through the Health and Human Services Committee unanimously, I had a conversation with the chair of that committee, Alderman Darrell Breckien Jr. And he was like, here's a list of, I think it was 9 alders who you should try to focus on. And so for the remainder of our canvassing campaign, we just each day of canvassing, we did one ward, one section of the town. And so that all of those 9 alder people got messages from their constituents saying, you're my rep, you're my alder, I want this passed. And so that's kind of a divide and conquer way of doing it. But that's also, somebody was asking about what power mapping is. That's also an example of that in a very simplistic fashion. But it really is finding out from people on the inside and finding out from people on the outside what needs to be done. And then just having the will and the people to do it. And so I personally want to thank Alana, who's out here. She came to almost every single canvas, which was fantastic. And Peter and Holly and Tim, Justin, and Bill. Bill was instrumental in writing wonderful, wonderful testimony that was presented at each of the meetings, the alder votes. And so, it's a team effort, and it's not easy, but at the end of the day, I think it's fun. You get your steps in, you see parts of your town that you might, have not been to before. You meet wonderful people, and we're growing something here. Since we started the resolution effort, we grew our mailing list for the Medicare for All mailing list from 238 people to 1,400 people. So we're really, really spreading the word and making sure that this becomes a reality for everybody. So thank you, everybody here, for all of your help that you've done as well.
I was going to ask, we have about 4 minutes of video from the meeting in New Haven. If people would like to see that, we can put that in. If people, I will try to screen share it. And then Holly will go into a slideshow we have just generalizing the information. So I hope this works. If we don't have audio, I'll just stop, but we'll see.
No audio, Rana.
No audio?
No.
Okay, then we won't do that. I hear it, but if no one else does, I think we'll go into the next part and figure out how to get audio on a video for next time. We figured out the closed captions this time, but not that. Holly, do you want me to share the screen for the slideshow then?
Sure, Rana, that would be wonderful. I'm not good at that part yet. Thank you.
Okay.
So just to say, there's also YouTube on the Board of Alders YouTube page, and which we can send around the link, and we can also send around that video that Holly took because she was present at the vote. But it was really beautiful.
Yeah. It was amazing.
Daryl Bracchino always has beautiful words to speak about Medicare for All. So
he was amazing. Okay, guys, so in order to get our word out more and to get the word spread and to educate people, we have a few informational slides and bits of information for you to share so that we can tell you steps to take in order to start your resolutions. So, fighting for Medicare for all, because healthcare is a human right. That is what we do. COVID-19 crisis underscores crisis in America's for-profit healthcare system. The frontline coronavirus doctors, patients, business, and labor leaders describe how corporate healthcare, oh Lord, my computer froze. My apologies, guys, has failed them. Medicare for All is a racial equity policy because we know that our system is a structural system full of racism and many other isms and biases. We need to destroy it and start over. Okay. So the fight for improved Medicare for all begins in your community. Join the effort to pass a local resolution in your town. Why do we do these government resolutions? Well, local governments most often deal with the consequences of our unaffordable and inequitable health insurance system. Municipal budgets are increasingly strapped and local businesses struggle to make ends meet due to rising health insurance premiums. And local governments provide frontline response when community members face medical debt-related bankruptcies and become gravely ill or die needlessly because they lacked adequate health insurance. Thus, local governments can play an important role in highlighting the desperate need for an expanded and improved Medicare for all. By passing resolutions, local governments can help to shape the national public narrative and build political will needed to ultimately win guaranteed health care for everyone as a matter of right. Suggested steps to pass a resolution. Now, these are all on the Medicare for All resolutions.org page, but check your town's charter to learn how to bring measures to your elected officials. You can't just go to the mayor in most cases and say, hey, I want this resolution to be passed. You have to go to their town council or to their, whichever way they do it. Each town or city is different, so you'll have to check the charter. Plan an organizing meeting to get started. Identify the advocates among your local government officials and have a meeting with them. Collect data about your town budget. That's the biggest thing that will convince your officials is those numbers. They will be blown away by the figures that they spend on health insurance for current and retired employees. So you collect that data about the budget, the demographics, the economy, and the health needs. So then you go and you plan your public education campaign. You show a screening of the movie Fix It. You do letters to the editor, tabling, things like that. And I have to tell you, going out into the community every weekend has been very gratifying to be able to bring everyone what the true meaning of improved and expanded Medicare for all is. Because there's so many lies and falsehoods out there. And to be able to tell everyone about it has really been a great experience. It really has been. And you really get more connected to people and it makes them feel heard and it will bring them more into a place of civic mindedness because now you have them you understand and they understand that, hey, I can talk to my government officials about this. And if I do this, they'll hear me. Where a lot of people are very disengaged and we need to re-engage them. So that's just my spiel. Okay, Rana, next slide, please. Thank you. Suggested steps to pass a resolution. Customize available sample resolution language. We have the ones from New London, New Haven, and Wyndham. Organize testimony for public meetings. Once the resolution is passed, share with your state and federal legislators. A lot of times that will be part of your language for the city or town resolution, is that they formally send a letter to your state and federal elected officials saying that this resolution was passed. Make sure you have a press release prepared to report on the passage. And then support efforts in neighboring towns. We are certainly trying to get as many cities and towns possible going, because we really need this movement to be larger and larger. Okay, I'm ready, Rana. Thank you. So tips on passing a resolution. Reach out to organizations you're currently a part of. See if they'll support the resolution, if they'll allow other members to table with you, canvass with you, phone bank with you. Like me personally, what I did was I reached out to all of my members at the places that I belong, all the organizations. And I said, well, if I'm doing tabling, will you do tabling with me? And we can both promote what we're doing and we can do it together. And a lot of times it was one of the best experiences for both organizations, and both organizations benefited because we really are like-minded and we really want the best as far as equity for everyone. And it really was a great thing to do. Reach out to local community advocacy groups. Create your coalitions for this specific resolution and hopefully beyond, to state and federal as well, because we did have HB 5340 last year, an act concerning establishing a single payer healthcare system in Connecticut. So perhaps, you know, if we had you guys on board with us then and other resolutions, we could have brought you into that as well. And of course, HR 1976. Okay, educate the community on this resolution. Explain what improved and expanded Medicare for all really means, because there are so many misconceptions out there. And this is one of the important things I have learned. Be true to your reasons for supporting Medicare for all. Whether you believe it's a human right or you have personal experiences, people really do see through your honesty and your passion. If you're misleading in any way, a lot of people see right through it. So if you're true to your reasons, people will be much more engaged with you. And know your facts, but also be honest. If someone, if I don't know a financial statistic, I say, well, I believe it's approximately this much, say 300 billion per year, but I'm not 100% certain. I can get back to you on that. Never make something up, because that would be a really big mistake. And then, get their information so you can follow up with them. It's much better that way. So if you want to find out if there's a local resolution underway in your community, you can go to this website, medicareforallresolutions.org, and then you can look up, is there a local resolution underway in your community? And it's in the chat. So thank you very much, Amanda.
And they'll most likely redirect you to us anyway, because we're their contacts in Connecticut. So you could just talk to us directly too.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Siobhan. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, Rona, could you go back to the last slide? I think it had information about how to get involved.
Yeah, hold on for a sec.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
That. Yes.
Oh yeah, all I wanted to highlight was that these are some of the ways that you can get involved with Medicare for All Connecticut. You can sign up to be a part of our committees, which we will talk about at further length later. And we also have canvassing, tabling, phone banking, and we're also on multiple social media channels. So that's all.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yes, thank you. There is an effort going forward in Hampden right now, and I wonder if before we open it up to people in other towns, if Pete would like to talk a little bit about that.
Pete said he would, he said he would be right back, but I'm not sure if he's
okay
here.
Oh, it's the captions are I guess we can open it up, and then when Pete comes back, he can talk a little bit about what's happening in progress in Hampden. If you want to ask a question, you can use the hand raise icon or put stack in the chat, and you know, we'll try to address whatever questions people have.
Carolyn?
Yeah, sorry about earlier. So I'm fairly new to this group, and my core question is, what's happened to support for Medicare for all over the past 2 years, for instance, generally speaking, in the state?
I don't know. I'm going to just start briefly, but others know more than I. I actually think that in the among the public, support is growing,
yeah,
but not necessarily among institutions. You think that with the COVID experiences of the past year, especially since people have sort of experienced what an expanded Medicare for all would look like, because, you know, if you want a COVID test, you don't have to show a medical card or worry about whether you're going to have to miss a meal because you can't afford to pay for it. And the same with the vaccine. And I have to admit to being a little disappointed that people kind of feeling very comfortable with free services to detect and vaccinate against COVID hasn't translated to them mentally, that it could be that way with diabetes. It could be that way with like all my health needs. So that's my 2 cents, but I welcome other people answering.
I think you're spot on there, Rana, about obviously the support for it in combination with it becoming or having been a national issue prior to COVID, with the popularity of sort of very progressive candidates such as Bernie Sanders and AOC, bringing that to light. But specifically with COVID, people losing their own health insurance, something they never thought would happen, really being scared of what they have to face. So I think that's an American symptom of it. Unless it affects me, I don't care. And so now they're seeing that. And I think also, Rana, you made a great point about the COVID testing and vaccines being free at point of service. When we were on doors for New Haven, for instance, that's something that I brought up a lot, saying that this is an example of evil socialized medicine that everyone's so scared of, but it helped us to, before the Delta variant, for instance, get us back to normal. And it helped communities, marginalized communities that were not able to before have access to care, access care, because COVID doesn't care, where you're from, though of course it's more rampant in specific communities. So I think a big problem, and I think maybe what could explain some of what you're getting at, Carolyn, is if we do pass Medicare for all, on the federal level, it means that the wealthier and corporations will have to pay higher taxes. And as we know, They don't want to do that. Yale, for instance, here in New Haven gets tax break after tax break after tax break. As much as they employ the city, they still benefit more from it. And so I think the fast sort of personhood of corporations has really destroyed a lot of our citizenry and what we're able to do. And so we particularly in Connecticut are up against a lot of evils. I mean, Rosa DeLauro, for all the good she's done, her biggest contributor in the 2018 election cycle was Yale. And so she's got to, you know, answer to them and not to us, unfortunately. But we also built a coalition with New Haven Rising, which is the union branch, organizing branch of the Yale unions. And she recently just spoke to them, gave a speech to them in May. And so, you know, if we find these ways to make things people-centered instead of corporation-centered, you know, hopefully that'll keep bringing these things forward.
Now, we have people here from a lot of towns in Connecticut, and I was wondering if any of you, if you want to put it in the chat or speak, are interested or feel as though your towns would be ripe grounds for having a resolution, because it's well and good to have a huge movement of people, but it's a whole different level of pressure on legislators if municipalities, you know, within a district that's being represented are talking to the legislators and saying, you know, it's killing us, the cost of insuring our city employees and our city retirees. And if no one else wants to start out, I was going to ask Pete to talk a little bit about Hamden.
Yeah, so with Hamden, this effort has been kind of starting up and then fizzling out for a little over a year now, maybe about a year and a half. So to date, we've done some phone banking, we've done some door knocking, had kind of a soft launch over the last few months parallel with New Haven. And like Sivan mentioned, now that New Haven has passed, the next big effort is going to be here in Hamden. The way things are looking now, it's an election season here in Hamden. So we have a 15-member legislative council, 9 of which are district representatives, and there are 6 at-large representatives representing the whole town. That's going to look very different in the next few months as this election cycle changes things up. So we're not really able to do much power mapping or anything right now because we frankly just don't know who's going to be on the council in a few months. But we do know who's running. We know who we have on our side who's currently running. So we know Justin Farmer, who is a DSA member, a current representative in the 5th district in Hamden. He is a huge champion for Medicare for All and a huge supporter of this resolution effort. So we are encouraging our members to help Justin out with his campaign for re-election. I can drop some information for that in the chat. Just to be clear, we're not coordinating with his campaign at all. We're just encouraging our members to volunteer with his campaign at the moment. There's Abdul Ismanu, who's running in the 3rd district. He's also a huge champion for Medicare for All. He's cut turf roughs in the DTC and stuff like that. So we're hoping that he gets in, and then there's some other people that we know will be supportive. So we're going to be hoping for them. And then what we can do in the meantime is just keep knocking doors. We have a letter campaign like we had in New Haven through Action Network. So we can keep knocking doors, building support that way, just talking to people about this resolution effort. Now that it's passed in New Haven, we can point to that and say, like, look, New Haven just did this. It's a little more concrete. We can say, like, you can look at this news story and see what actually happened and what it meant, versus it being kind of a little more just conceptual. So that's kind of the long and short of it. I said we're having our planning meeting tomorrow if you want to learn more, but we're just going to hit the pavement, hit the ground running, get as much support as we can, and then in November, once the dust settles from this current election campaign, we'll know whose districts we need to target. We can figure out who we have support from, and where we need to apply the pressure. One of the benefits of Hamden is it's largely Democratic, largely progressive town. It's overwhelmingly Democrat in terms of voter registration. A lot of times in Connecticut, it's like slightly more Democrats than Republicans, but more independent or unaffiliated voters than either of those two. Hamden is mostly Democratic, then independent, then Republican. So that gives us benefit. That means it's a big base of support for Rosa DeLauro in her district. It's a big base of support for Chris Murphy in the state. So passing a resolution in Hamden following New Haven was going to say, it's going to be a clear message to those two members of our delegation in Washington. Just because, it's a big Democratic stronghold in the state.
So it's perverse, isn't it, that legislators are elected by the population. There's overwhelming support, what it reminds me of, for gun control, but gun control can't make it through the legislative process. And I hear the same thing here, maybe to a lesser degree, but there's certainly substantial support for Medicare for all, but it can't get through fast enough anyway, through the legislative process. It's so perverse. I don't have the answer, by the way, but it reminds me of guns, which, if Sandy Hook didn't do it, I don't know what will.
Yeah, but and I don't want, one thing I do want to be clear is that talking to people in Hamden on the doors and kind of tabling at farmers markets and things like that, there are a lot of people who don't know what Medicare for All is. So there is a lot of support.
That's probably true.
And we need to pinpoint that support and, highlight it, elevate it in the conversation. But part of what we're doing is also educating people. One of the most common things that I've heard talking to people is, I say that I'm talking about Medicare for All, and they say, well, I'm already on Medicare, or, I'm not old enough for Medicare. And they don't really know what Medicare for All is. And so that gives you an opportunity to educate people, educate your neighbors, to not just elevate existing support, but build new support by talking to people. And that's really, really critical. Here in Hamden, in New Haven, anywhere in Connecticut, anywhere in the country. It's one of the things that makes these resolution campaigns such a powerful tactic for the overall movement for Medicare for All, in my opinion.
So what's the most effective education methodology? Face-to-face, public meetings, knocking on doors, would you say?
We've done
all of the above.
Yeah. We've done for New Haven, we did specifically canvassing because it was really kind of the easiest thing to do. It was the summer, people are out and about after COVID stuff. So it just felt right. I think going forward, it would be also great for us to do like community events, maybe hold a Q&A session at a community center or something like that, or a town hall. But again, because of COVID and now with mask mandates, it might not be as effective because not as many people might show up for that. Right. But also having those one-on-one conversations either on a phone call or door to door, or when we were at farmers markets, again, just explaining what Medicare for All means, because there is so much disinformation and there is so much confusion about it, because people say, well, what is universal health care? What's single payer? And it's like, essentially, they're all the same. We're trying to achieve the same thing, which is to get everybody covered, every American resident covered, no matter your employment status, no matter your pre-existing conditions, no matter your gender, your orientation, your immigration status. And the more you talk to people as well, the more you learn as well, because as was in the presentation, you might not know an answer the first time, but then you might look it up and find it out, or somebody might even have a question that you didn't even think about. I had somebody who was like, well, why does Finland have they have socialized medicine, and why do they have such a low vaccine rate? And I was like, well, I can't speak to Finland, but I know that Israel, for instance, had the #1 vaccine rate. And, here in Connecticut, we were top 5 of all the states throughout the entire vaccine campaign. And, it gets these people thinking. And, you might not get them the first time, but it gets them thinking. Try to get them on our mailing list. They can always just sign up and unsubscribe if they don't want. And they can come to one of our monthly member meetings where we have wonderful guest speakers from all over the country, and just, talk with us. Pete, sorry, I just wanted to ask, the canvassing for Hamptons are Sundays at 11, right?
Yeah, that's what we were planning on.
Okay, I had it in the chat and I was like, is it 10 or 11? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I haven't made those RSVP links yet, but I will spread them around once I have.
Thank you.
Hey, can I just add 2 things to how do you get people to at least consider what a different system would look like? Just to build off of that, Connecticut actually kind of had a single payer vaccine distribution program. So, that was just a little model of what that could look like, 2 things I want to say is that we did push this public option bill as well. It was very complex for people to understand, for us to understand, and really complex to sell. It would have the comptroller be able to negotiate prices and a plan from a pool with all the Connecticut employees that are on the Connecticut State Employee Health Plan, but it's not really the state employees health plan that everybody gets or can opt into. So that was the more complicated and complex, which quite frankly, Obamacare kind of is, the less effective it is than the simple concept of a single payer. And then people are like, what? I can't have my own health insurance? How well is that working for you now? How well is the formulary working for you now that your drugs being covered, changing halfway through the year, changing plans, your employer changing plans? Like there's only 2 plans on the exchange. I mean, we've got to talk about whether, whether we have just normalized an extremely expensive system that does not work for anybody. Like nobody's like, yeah, I'm really happy with my plan. They cover 100% of stuff, except actually Husky Medicaid. It doesn't cover 100% of stuff, but we have one of the best arrays of services and user low administrative overhead rate in the country for our Medicaid plan. And to that note, I also wanted to say, I see whoever put in the chat that we have extended our open enrollment and there's subsidies on that. And people may be eligible and not know that they're eligible for a fully subsidized 0-cost plan. But you got to go onto the Healthcare Connect. You have to go onto that website. I think that
accesshealthcarect.org. I think
Right.
I'll put it in again.
Put it in again, and this is really, really important. This is best kept secret because we got this extra subsidies from the state, and we've just extended that deadline to October. There's all kinds of people that could be switching to a silver plan and get zero cost like it costs them nothing, including no copay, or they may be newly eligible for it, but it's the silver plan under either Access Healthcare enrollment that is literally like a husky for all. Oh, it's a husky for those people eligible. But it's another 40,000 people that are not currently eligible. I think it's 40,000. I can't remember how many it is. But anyways, we really, because of the government, the federal subsidies. So we really want people, the underemployed, the newly unemployed, or just lower income, middle income folks to check it out, because this really might be a game changer for your costs. But it's that possibility is only open through October. We did get it extended, and these shifting timelines and enrollment periods, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. We need automatic enrollment. This is like this is why just like automatic enrollment at the DMV for voter registration, we need to make these seamless and not complicated and really clear. You walk in with your card, everything's covered, or not even with your card, whatever, like other countries have. And that's what we really have to talk about to the public, is that no other public puts up with this kind of Byzantine, horrible, expensive, bureaucratic, for-profit driven bullshit lack of healthcare. No other developed country puts up with it, and we shouldn't either.
Carolyn, I'm also going to put again in the chat. Washington Post just reported that America is 11 out of 11 of the highest, earning countries in the world. By far, that our healthcare system is bullshit, as Rep. Hughes says, and it lists all the different reasons. And it's a great article, and I actually think we should try to get the people who wrote the study maybe to come and talk to us at some point. It was just like on every single metric except for patient engagement, which is advertising. We do very well in advertising.
Is it in chat now?
Yes, it says just in the news today, that link.
Oh, news today. Okay.
Yeah, if you click that.
Thank you.
I think a lot of people don't think of like paying for health insurance as like a tax. They think it's like a bill, but they don't think of it as a tax. And so there's like a disconnect there, that when you kind of frame it like it is a tax that you're already paying, maybe they think about it a little bit differently. I have a question. And maybe this is something for later. I saw on the agenda that there's like some of the committees might be speaking, but is there any information on how much insurance companies are giving to any representatives on Connecticut?
Yeah, it's a wonderful website is called opensecrets.org or .com. And you can look up any organization, any company, any legislator, and they'll have information listed there. That's how I found out about Rosa DeLauro's campaign financing. And then you it's kind of like a Wikipedia where you click on that person's name, this company's name, and it brings you further and further in. So I'll put that in the chat too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And kind of along with that, maybe I'm curious if I brought up power mapping in the legislature, Connecticut legislature. I was wondering if there was like a power mapping kind of people who are least likely, and or like organizations that are least likely and maybe putting up the most fight to stop Medicare or single payer. And if there's been any thought of giving them any like difficulty like getting into work or anything like that, you know, because again, we have them as neighbors, and a lot of the rest of the country doesn't have access to the insurance companies.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Basically, all the legislators that have the headquarters in their districts are very reluctant to float this to the top of the pile ever. In fact, I've heard from some key legislative leaders that they doubt we'll ever get even a public option, because the insurance lobby and industry is so strong and so powerful in Connecticut.
Which is why I think they need to be a target. And the lobbies, not the legislators, and not necessarily like, yeah, I think they need to be in my personal opinion.
And did you hear anything about the public option? Are they bringing it back during short session?
Oh, hell no. Hell no. No, so that's what I'm saying. The key proponents said they doubt that we'll ever get it, because this is how powerful and Lamont and leadership is, who happens to have the headquarters in their district.
But see, we still have to bring it as far as we can, so that the public,
with whoever,
so that the public can be made aware that those people have blocked it. The further we go with this bill, the more we know who is blocking it. I mean, although we kind of already have an idea, and there was power mapping done. So, yeah.
Well, sort of to speak a bit more to Ben's question and suggestion, our committees, which we'll talk about, though they're separate, will definitely work together in order to not only identify, you know, for instance, electoral will most likely, research will probably help with identifying which legislators or groups are anti any healthcare changes. And then that would be reported to, for instance, electoral, and then we would try to find alternate candidates like Justin Paglino's here, who do support it, and how we can support them so that they get in power. And part of our endorsement process, which we haven't solidified at all yet, would be, will you ever accept corporate donations? You know, and I don't think that's anything that any of us would ever tolerate. And then that would go hand in hand with talking with comms and making sure that they alert the press, write a press release about this, and publicize it on social media. And fundraising, so that we can buy ads to say, hey, what was it? United Healthcare had like a smear campaign, you know, so that we can, you know, talk about that and make people aware of these companies that are trying to suck us all dry. So
I think, also it's like when Obamacare was going on, kind of, you heard the Republicans say that there's going to be like, what is it, like death camps or whatever they were saying,
death panels.
And so, I mean, like what do we have now? You know, if we don't have healthcare for everyone, like what do we have now? And so I'm surprised, and like with this whole COVID thing, like stopping people from accessing resources, it's like, what is that, you know? And it's like interesting, you know, again, like not to totally drag all Democrats, but like, you know, it's like something that like makes sense to like bring up, you know, it's like get a little backbone and teeth.
I think that thinking about the time and the clock, we will send out a follow-up email so that people maybe can connect with others in their towns who would work on resolutions and to follow up on this. And I wanted to call on Tim because he had some follow-up strategies maybe that he wanted to share with people that is not really what we've talked to yet, but it is another piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so I wanted to just like kind of, you know, start out by just like emphasizing what a big deal the New Haven resolution is. Just not only in terms of like the work as we do Medicare for All CT, but also just, you know, in general in the larger context of, you know, these resolutions being passed all across the country. There's about 70 of them have been passed. But this is, you know, one of the largest cities in Connecticut. I know on the scale of cities, it might not be that large, but in Connecticut, it is one of the biggest hotspots. And in particular in targeting Rosa DeLauro. Sivan hit on a whole bunch of the points that I wanted to bring up. Maybe I can just circle around them to like kind of make the case again. So Rosa DeLauro is the appropriations chair, which is an incredibly powerful position to be in. You know, alongside Bernie Sanders, who is the budget chair, that is like the people who are in control of the money in Congress. So having her be an ally to Medicare for All would be huge in getting this, you know, to a place where it could pass. Right now we have, I believe it's like over half of the Democratic Congress
117
have co-sponsored either the 2019 Senate bill or the 2021 House bill. So we're getting there. We're inching there, you know, with little fights like this here and there across the country. But I think getting DeLauro on board would be huge. The reason that she's been reluctant so far is because she has her own public option bill. And as far as public option bills go, it's actually a fairly good one. But I think she sort of held on to this with the idea of like, she's going to get into this chair position. She has her baby. Jacob Hacker, who's like a big, you know, Yale professor, is one of the people who worked on it with her, is a big political science person who is kind of a sort of a behind the scenes talking head on policy and things like that. And as we've seen so far, there's been basically no talk from Joe Biden about public option whatsoever since he's been in office. That was his official position. We had a couple other candidates that were supporting Medicare for All in the primaries. And Biden's thing was like, well, I'm going to have a public option, you know, and that's going to be my healthcare policy. But he hasn't really talked about healthcare amazingly enough with the pandemic going on. So I think we are in a pretty good position to influence her, having had, as Sivan brought up, Justin Elliker, the mayor of New Haven, has signed on. The Board of Alders have now passed a resolution, and having New Haven Rising, which is a community organizing group that is supporting the Medicare for All as well. The other piece of the puzzle within this is the New Haven locals, which are the unions in town. I myself am a member of Local 34, which is the clerical and technical union of administrative workers that work at Yale. There's Local 35, which is kind of hospitality workers at Yale. There's 217, which is not affiliated with Yale, but is like hospitality workers at the hotels and the restaurants in town. And then there is 33, which is not an officially recognized one, but it's the Graduate Students Union. This board is already fairly represented in terms of members that are on the Board of Alders. There's about 7 members on the Board of Alders that are participating in either New Haven Rising or members of those local unions. So having this bill pass unanimously with all those folks on board, I think sort of gives it a little bit of credibility. What I'm envisioning as one of the next steps is to just actually get the locals themselves to support Medicare for All. and having the buy-in of those groups that they already work with, New Haven Rising is, I mean, they show up to every single, you know, rally that we have. It's always us in New Haven Rising. You know, the mayor always shows up to every rally we have. Rosa DeLauro always shows up. And a big part of why this is influential is because New Haven Rising and the unions are a big part of the canvassing strategy that Rosa DeLauro uses. They are the people who go out and knock on doors for her every single campaign. So if they're knocking on doors for her, they're a big part of her base. They can, you know, tell her that, you know, they can have a little bit more of an intimate conversation with her about, hey, why the hell haven't you signed on for Medicare for All yet? So I would like to try to get together with other folks that are in these locals and form sort of a Medicare for All caucus, and just sort of discuss. This is very nascent right now, so we haven't actually had anybody meet or anything like that. But if we could get together and just sort of discuss what our strategies would be towards working on the executive boards for 34, 35, 33, I guess, and 217, as well as any of the other groups as well, to just try to get an endorsement in front of folks and to get a vote on it from the membership. I think that would be huge as well, and would just only kind of reinforce New Haven as just a solidly Medicare for All district that Rosa DeLauro can't deny. There's obviously other towns in her district too. So moving out into places like Hamden and Guilford and Middletown and beyond would be excellent as well. But you know, thinking in terms of you know, if anybody has any friends or relatives or anything like that that are involved in those unions, definitely feel free to send them my way. I can drop my email in the chat, and we can think about just kind of getting together to discuss how we can move that forward.
Thank you, Tim. And I guess we'll try to get information out in the email. I did want to spend, you have something quick to say, Justin? I do want to spend about the last 10 minutes just talking about our organization. But
very quick. Yes, very quickly. I just wanted to say that, you know, the idea of pressuring Rosa DeLauro to change her mind, I'm all for that. I think that's fine, but I don't think it's viable as a sole strategy, you know, because we have to understand that, you know, she has no entitlement to this seat. She's had it for 30 years. And I'm not saying it has to be me. It could be a Democratic challenger or something. But, you know, this is an issue-based organization. We should have no loyalty to Rosa DeLauro whatsoever. We can try to pressure her, you know, but if she's not with this organization on this issue, the last thing we should do is be supporting her. You know, we should support her opponent if we're supporting political candidates at all as an organization. And I'm just speaking on behalf of Medicare for All. I'm not speaking on behalf of myself, you know, as a candidate who opposes Rosa DeLauro because she doesn't support Medicare for All. I'm not making this as an argument for why people should support me. If you don't want to support me, support her opponent, but don't support her, please. Unless you can change her mind. If you can change her mind and she supports it, then come the election, okay, support her. But if she doesn't, support her opponent, like get somebody to primary her. That's just my suggestion. That's the way I see it. I'm a candidate.
I definitely hear what you're saying, Justin, and all due respect to you, I think, unfortunately, on this issue, you know, Rosa DeLauro has a lot of goodwill within the community. She is incredibly well liked by her constituency.
Yeah,
so I think
people are dying.
Absolutely, yep. And I definitely support a dual strategy on this. So if your campaign picks up momentum, I'm all behind it. But I also think that to me, it seems like less of an uphill battle to apply pressure to her than it does to beat her in an election, because she is just incredibly well liked. She just passed this childcare policy that put a lot of money into people's pockets. it's going to be a lot of work to overcome, to get the numbers needed to knock her out of her seat. Just,
I think we're going to have the political discussion another day and really dedicate to it. Because we have 10 minutes left, and we wanted to give a bit of an update on our organization. The 30-second summary is that we are in the process of becoming a 501c4. We may also form a PAC for more direct supportive candidates. That's still to be decided. We have several committees, and I wanted to hand this over to Amanda first thing, so she can talk about the communications committee, which has been extremely active, and we'll talk briefly about some of the other committees.
Thanks, Rona. Very briefly, you may have noticed that we updated our logo, where you might see that on our social media and our supporting platforms. We are also in the process of updating our website, so we should have that coming up shortly, hopefully sometime this week. We also have, I remember Pete mentioning, well, this is for tomorrow, but we have the Hamden's Farmers Markets on Thursdays. And if anybody wants to come out and join canvassing or tabling, that would be great. But obviously we can save that for the Hamden meeting tomorrow, which is at 7. And then I really think that's all I have to say about the communications committee. Sivan, do you want to talk about the joining some of the other committees?
Yeah, so we created a Google form that I hope will be sort of added to our website. Let me just pull up the, okay, 1 second. Do
you want me to share it?
Oh yeah, if you have the link. Oh wait, here we go. Okay.
You have it?
Yes, I have it. Sorry, everyone.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, so here's the committee sign up link. So it's a Google form. So basically, actually, well, Rhonda, maybe I can share my screen.
You're a co-host, so you should be able to.
Okay, so does everyone, which screen does everyone see?
Join a Medicare for All.
Okay,
we can see the Google form.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so yeah, you'd put in your name, your email, your phone number, and your address. Happy for you to put in your city, state, or zip code. And then these are our existing committees. Some of them haven't formed yet, but these are the ones that we think are foundational at this point. And the first one we actually started was communications. You know, we must evangelize the word of Bernie and Medicare for All. So in this group, you would be working on social media posts, engaging with social media audience. What we really want to also do is people who like or share or comment on our posts, we want to engage them, like maybe send them a direct message, be like, hey, do you want to sign up for our mailing list kind of thing? And sending out emails as well. And act as press liaison, so writing press releases, and if there's any questions, it would come to, you know, from the press, it would come to you. We also have fundraising. So Justin made a suggestion in the chat, like, you know, maybe we buy space in the New Haven Register to just put the text of the resolution in there. Well, we need money for that. And we do have a bank account. We are established in that sense. So this would be planning fundraising events, working on grant applications, hopefully in the future, and manage donations to our general fund, which is also set up now as well. Education committee would be conducting research on policy studies and the legislators that we were talking about, those like organizations, corporations, politicians who oppose universal health care, who are actively working against it, or maybe even doing research on those who do support it, and maybe then, you know, they can become candidates that we support. And then this is what we were talking about also, you know, in post-COVID times, we can host, you know, in-person events, but even holding Zoom, like, so create and present public education events like town halls, things like that. Community outreach would sort of go hand in hand with town resolutions or electoral, in that you would create those field plans, like I was talking about, where we said we'd go ward to ward, and recruiting people to do canvassing, setting up the phone banking, making sure people are trained up on that, attend community events on our behalf, like if there's a carnival or a rally or anything like that, being there so that there's presence, like farmers markets as well. Moderate our monthly member meetings. So right now it's kind of been myself, Rana, Stefan, Holly, and a couple of other people, but we want to expand that pool. And then recruiting new members and volunteers. Then electoral, which is my baby, closest to my heart. And that is, we need to work on creating and implementing an endorsement process, host outreach on behalf of endorsed candidates. But as Pete had said, we would not, because we'd be 501c4, we would not coordinate with them directly, but like we can exchange logos and host our own canvassing and say that we endorse certain candidates, and you know, go knocking on doors. So just we couldn't do it together with their campaigns, and find and promote viable candidates who support Medicare for all. And for instance, we would be the committee working, you know, with the you know, the unions or the other stakeholders in order to be in touch with Rosa in the first attempt. Or the first iteration to try to get her to sign on. And if she doesn't, then we go on to step 2, which is find somebody to primary her, or we say communications. She's not, you know, answering us. We need to publicize this. And then we also have an ad hoc committee for 2021, which is the town resolutions. And so basically, if somebody, you know, now is like, I want to set up a resolution in a town in Connecticut, Wilton, we would be, you know, that committee would help them, you know, in the process, provide any support that they would need, go to the town to knock on doors as well. And then the others is like, maybe your skill isn't listed here, but you have other skills. You know, maybe you know people and, you know, have community connections, or you're a big shot with your church, you know, that's fantastic, you know, or you have a small business yourself and you want to somehow promote and support Medicare for all. We also need translation services because we have not been able to get a Spanish version of our literature, which is shameful. But there's also, it's not just Spanish, there's large Muslim communities, all other groups that we want to be able to engage, because this is important for everybody. And we don't want to be, you know, English exclusive in this. Or even if you just have a car, you know, and you can drive people to Wilton, you know, that is fantastic too. So basically, if you just fill out all this information here, we'll then process that and start sending out emails to everybody. We have a Slack channel or several channels that, you know, we can get going for the specific committees and really get going, because I think what we want to accomplish with all of these committees is be able to have a force behind Rep. Michelle and Ann Hughes and say, you know, we have, you know, how much, 2 years now before the next session. Let's see how many co-sponsors we can get on for the next one. We had what, 5 or 6 now? Let's get all of them. You know, we'll have 2 years to do that. And, you know, we'll just keep hammering it home to, you know, make this policy a reality.
A couple of months, not 2 years, a couple of months.
Oh, that's for the short session, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to try. We have to try.
I like the challenge, Rep. Michelle. So we will make it happen.
Well, it is like 1 minute to 9 o'clock. And next month, I want everyone to know that our guest will be Michael Leidy from the Sanders Institute, who's the president of Healthy California now, who will talk about the state level and federal Medicare expansion. And also Stephen Kimball, who's a board member of PNHP in Hawaii, to talk about what Hawaii has done towards getting single payer, including they're getting an ERISA waiver. And Holly wrote something about reminding her about something, and then I think we'll close out and say goodnight to everyone.
No, I just wanted to make sure it was in the chat that I do have a connection to translation services now. But also, yeah, that was all I wanted to make sure, so that it's in the chat, so someone reminds me that I do have now translation services.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah. So I just got those, yeah.
If you know sign language or know how to write in Braille, like literally, you know, we need to think more inclusively as well. I mean, an example is none of us here are Black. Why is that? You know, let's figure that out. None of us here are, I don't know, transgender, anything else. We want to make this literally for all. And so it would be fantastic if we can do that outreach personally, as well as organizationally. So you're all our soldiers in this.
I have a question. Do you guys have any goals of like how many resolutions you guys want to get done in like a year or anything to like achieve like that?
We don't exactly, but we were sort of inspired by the ban fracking waste ordinance campaign of a few years ago. And once they had a critical mass of about 50 to 55 town ordinances, the state took action. So we're thinking, so my own thinking is that 50 might be close to a critical mass for state action.
Okay, thank you.
Thinking of it being 9:01 though, I don't want to hold anyone up anymore. Thank you all for coming. We will have a recording and a follow-up email. So good night, everyone.
Thank you. Sign up for the committees. Woohoo!
Thanks, Rona.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Amanda.
Good night,
for
everyone.
your
Good night.
presentation work.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
You're my hero.